लास्ट वीडियो में हमने सीखा स्टैटिक और डायनामिक टाइपिंग क्या होता है एंड इन दिस वीडियो वी विल एक्सप्लोर हाउ टू वर्क विद वेरिएबल्स एंड डेटा टाइप्स, माने हाउ टू टेल अ मशीन के भाई आपसे बात हो रही है. सो लेट्स गेट बैक टू आवर एक्सपर्ट.
Now, similar to how you reserve some part of your memory to store and preserve your childhood and other memories, computer also keeps some part of its memory to remember data that can be used in reference later. So, when you declare a variable, what you are actually doing is asking computer to save some part of its memory. Then you can initialize a variable. As the name suggests, initializing a variable essentially means assigning a value to a variable which has already been stored in the memory. Now, how does a translator come to know that you are declaring a variable? It identifies a variable declaration when it sees the var keyword. In JavaScript, all the variables are declared using this var keyword and the equal to sign is used to assign values to them. There are some situations where you want to declare a variable and thus get memory for it and then later assign a value to that variable. So consider the example of a report card. The report card has all the columns printed on it, thus taking up memory. But initially they are all blank, and once the answer sheets are evaluated for an exam for a student, only then the marks of the student are assigned to the respective columns in the report card. So the syntax of variable declaration of a variable and then initialization is, so var, I will give the variable name over here, okay, and I write a semicolon after this. Then I access this same variable name and then I use the equal to sign, which is the equal to operator, and then I give a value to it. So this is actually the syntax. Okay, this is not actually a variable declaration, this is simply a syntax. So what we have done over here is we have written the var keyword, right, followed by a space and then the name of the variable. The name of the variable is needed so that you can use this name in future to assign a value to it. You end the statement with a semicolon. On the next line you write again the name of the variable, thus referring to the variable which has got some space in the memory, and then use equal to sign to assign this particular value to this variable name, right. So note that the spaces that you give before and after the equal to sign are optional. So you can write like this also. But this space that you have given over here is very much needed. Why? Otherwise it will combine both these things together and the translator will not be able to find this var keyword. Right? So you have to give a space over here and here the spaces are optional. So now let's see an example for the variable declaration and initialization. So for example, you want to declare a variable for marks and then assign a literal to it. Then you can write var marks, right, and then you write marks is equal to, let's say 90, and then you want to log this into console and let's say you write this marks inside the console.log statement, thus passing marks to this print statement, and then you refresh your browser and see 90 over here, right. Now did you notice that you ended each statement with a semicolon? Now why did you do that? Though it is not mandatory to end each statement with a semicolon, yet it is recommended that you do that. The semicolon actually marks the end of a statement and thus helps the translator distinguish one statement from another. Now let us see if our previous example, which means the current example, works without using the semicolons. So what I do is I simply remove all these semicolons, right? I save it and I run this, so it works perfectly fine. But why did it do like that? As I told you that the semicolons are much needed and they mark the end of the statement. But why is this showing proper output to us? Because the compiler treats each line of code written on a separate line as a distinct statement. This is why it works fine without a semicolon. But when you write multiple statements on the same line, will it work then too? Let us modify our example and then check if this works. So obviously you will be separating them with a space, right? and then I bring this to the same line and I separated it with a space, saved it, and then clicked over here to refresh my browser, and I see an error over here. I see a syntax error which says unexpected identifier. So why do I get the syntax error? Because the translator is now not able to distinguish each statement from another, and since I have written all of them in the same line, it's not able to identify how many statements I've written. And also these statements do not make any sense to it, and this is why I get a syntax error. Thus, you know why you should write semicolon at the end of each statement in JavaScript. You can read more about the rules for including semicolon from the link given in additional references.
To summarize, JavaScript में variables act as containers जिसमें reusable data store कर सकते हैं and it is the basic unit of storage. और अगर किसी variable की value classify करनी है then we use data types. अब आपके लिए एक छोटा सा टास्क है. अगर आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया तो कमेंट्स में OP JavaScript वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर कीजिए और लाइक शेयर और सब्सक्राइब तो जरूर करना. एंड मशीन से और बातें करेंगे इन द नेक्स्ट वीडियो.